Hello and welcome to another episode of Charlotte Pride TV. My name is Matt Comer, pronouns he, him, his. I'm Communications Director for Charlotte Pride, and I would love to welcome you into this space where we're going to have an awesome opportunity to learn about some recent advancements to local LGBTQ non-discrimination ordinances and protections. Before we get into our conversation with our special guest, I would first like to update you on a couple of things. If you've been following along with Charlotte Pride last month in the fall, you will have noticed that we were experimenting around with a monthly web show, Charlotte Pride TV. We want to thank all of the members of the community who have given us feedback, our volunteer team, other folks who have helped to shape what this is going to look like. Based on everybody's feedback, we're going to move away from that monthly web show format, and we're going to bring you smaller, quicker, bite-sized pieces of content that you're going to start seeing regularly throughout every month. We actually think this format is going to be really useful for folks, and I'm really excited to be here to jumpstart that and to have a really important conversation today. I have a special guest with us on, and Cameron Pruette is president of LGBTQ Democrats of Mecklenburg County. Welcome, Cameron.
Thank you for having me, Matt. Happy to be here.
Well, we are very happy that you are here. Cameron, first, I want to give you some space to introduce yourself. Who are you, and what are some of the things you're involved with in the community?
My name is Cameron. I use he, him pronouns. And so, like Matt said, I am currently the president of the LGBTQ+ Democrats of Mecklenburg County. You may also have seen me at your local Disney store where I work part-time. And then, of course, throughout the community, connected through a variety of organizations, most recently helping out with Heartbeat is One. And, just making sure that I'm also a nexus for other LGBTQ organizations in the community.
Thank you very much, Cameron. So the reason we have you on is because lots of people in the community have probably seen news coverage lately or seen community conversation about the end of the HB2, HB 142 era that prohibited local governments from passing LGBTQ-inclusive non-discrimination ordinances on a local level. And people may be aware that the county has passed a resolution, but we wanted to give an opportunity for folks to learn a little bit more. Tell us a little bit about what happened in December. There was an expiration of state law called HB 142. What was that?
So HB 142 was the so-called compromise that repealed HB 2, but it still forbade localities like Charlotte, Mecklenburg, and the townships from passing non-discrimination protections. On December 1st, part of it expired. It's important to note that even as we talk about this progress, that the part that didn't expire is protections for trans people to use facilities that match their identity and expression. And that still will require change at the state level in Raleigh at the General Assembly. So what did expire means that Charlotte can pass non-discrimination protections in employment and accommodations for LGBTQ+ people, except for restrooms and changing facilities.
And thank you for that information. That's really good to know. So that means local governments can start passing these. Some cities and towns already have: Hillsborough, Chapel Hill, Carrboro, Orange County, Greensboro. What have you all been doing with LGBTQ+ Democrats since the expiration in December?
So really, even before the expiration, there was a coalition, Equality North Carolina and Campaign for Southern Equality, and the statewide LGBTQ+ Democrats were working with mayors sort of behind the scenes to see what the interest was in their local municipalities, what the challenges to non-discrimination protections might be this time, and also see, what needed to be coordinated, who needs what language. Anyone who's been in North Carolina for any length of time can tell you that there's a county and there's a city and there's all this overlapping thing of who can do what, when, where. And so really before December 1st, there was all that work going on as well. Since then, we've been helping to educate and connect people, being able to help drive people to communicate with their local leaders at the county commission and at the city council, and moving into the townships, hopefully in the next steps. And then also being an advocate in those rooms, right? Talking to county commissioners, talking to city councilors, so that there's a voice in the room and at the table. And also making sure that we're speaking up for people who aren't in the room, right? I am a white cis man. I am not, the most marginalized aspect even of our community, right? And so making sure that we are either bringing those voices to the table or advocating for them in spaces where they have not been invited.
So what is the timeline? I love all this information. It sounds exciting. A lot of people in the community are probably also asking, when's this going to happen? The county's already done something, but what's the general timeline?
Well, the county did kind of got the ball rolling. It's a non-binding resolution, right? It is important to say that every county commissioner voted for it, and then they made a second vote to sort of research their enforcement options. And so what looks to be happening is that the city and county are working together to figure out how they'll enforce together. We are confident and have gotten confirmation that there are the votes to do this and to make it enforceable. And the reason we say enforceable is that these protections need to be backed up, right? We appreciate window dressing, we appreciate symbolic efforts, but we need to be protected. And so we're really looking for the next few months of, the city attorney and county attorney having their conversations and looking at what is legally possible. And we already have enforcement mechanisms for public accommodations and housing in Charlotte. I'm pleased to say that the Community Relations Committee, which is responsible for that, is also in active conversation about this and seems very supportive and receptive from my first talks with them too.
Very cool, very cool. So what could you tell us a little bit about what is in these ordinances, maybe how they differ from the original proposals that Charlotte heard back in 2015, 2016?
Absolutely. Even back in 2015 and 2016, we were pushing, and people in Charlotte were pushing for something inclusive, right? So it's not just about protecting LGBTQ plus people. There are gaps in our laws, even on those important categories that we already protect, right? If your employer employs less than 15 people, you are not protected under federal employment law. Public accommodations, has limited protections. And with the recent passage of the U.S. Crown Act last year, we're also talking about natural hair discrimination, right? Ways that we can extend and broaden who we are protecting in our community and fill in the gaps, right? Yes, ideally, we would pass an Equality Act in the House and Senate this week and Biden would sign it into law. Yes, ideally, the NC General Assembly would pass a statewide protection bill, right? But those things don't seem likely to happen right now. And so this is why we're focusing at the local level and want to broaden that out. Another great thing about the Community Relations Committee being involved is that they have a whole intercultural network and are able to point to what are other aspects. When you talk about differences between bills, Durham has a Human Relations Committee, a lot like our CRC. And so that body is responsible for enforcement. Other smaller townships, they're having a whole conversation because they don't have enforcement for public accommodations at all yet. And so what you're seeing in places maybe like Davidson or Matthews is this is a brand new concept for them. And so they're willing, but they're also building a new network and infrastructure sometimes.
So I want to get to how folks can get involved, how they can support this. Let's start with those smaller towns like Davidson, Matthews. Those conversations there are beginning. What should folks in the smaller towns in the county be thinking about right now? How can they get involved?
Absolutely, right. In this digital age, it's very easy for us to send a text or a form email, but I'm going to tell you that the most effective thing you can do is to call your representative, your town commissioner, your town mayor, and have a conversation about why this is important to you. Even if you're leaving a voicemail to tell your story. I know that for us in our community, we feel like we've been telling our stories our whole lives, but sometimes that could be someone's first time hearing about your story, about why protections would matter to you, about discrimination you've experienced. And if you go to ncasready.org, you can find out a lot of information about what's going on within our county and other townships, and also easier ways to connect with them.
And is that similar advice to folks who want to get involved in the effort in Charlotte, or are there other ways that people who reside within the city limits of Charlotte can get involved?
So actually the website that ENC and Campaign for Southern Equality set up, we have a CLT is ready link, we have a MEC is ready link. And so the website actually has a map of the state, and you can kind of find what localities are, and it gives you that information to quickly connect to them. You can also go to mecdimlgbtq.org to find out more about what we're specifically doing in supporting our efforts. And there are lots of groups in the community working towards this, right? If you don't feel comfortable calling, then we can definitely connect you to send them an email. Always use your words and your language. Legislators get spam emails all the time. MoveOn.org, that goes to a spam box and doesn't get read. But if you send your personal story, that's what's going to have more impact.
Well, Cameron, thank you very much for taking a few minutes out of your day. I know we're all busy. Life is very hectic, but I appreciate you coming on, and hope we can have updates maybe in the next couple months when city and county moves. We can bring you back on for a short episode of Charlotte Pride TV to have another update. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. And again, ncisready.org and mecdemlgbtq.org. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks again to Cameron from LGBTQ+ Democrats for joining us for our Charlotte Pride TV episode this week. Be sure to keep following us on Facebook and YouTube for more Charlotte Pride TV interviews, features, and clips. Remember, we're changing from a monthly web show format to a more regular format. So you're going to be seeing a lot more awesome content coming at you on our social media. If you haven't signed up for Charlotte Pride's email newsletter yet, be sure to do that via the link on your screen. That's how you're going to be the first to know about all of our exciting updates, upcoming events, programs, and activities. And once again, thank you for tuning in.